Check. There we go. How's it going, everybody? Woo! You having a good time at age 45? That's what I want to hear. So, we have a special guest moderator today. You might know him as Count D. You might know him as Piggy D from Rob Zombie's band. You might just know him as Matt, the host of Metal and Monsters. If you've seen the show, it's fucking awesome. Check it out on YouTube. But that was where you're supposed to go, yeah, like you're saying. They love it, Matt. Anyway, coming up right now, you pick the name, Piggy D.
Hey, everybody. Woo! Excuse me, people of age. I met him 15 years ago. I was told there was nothing left. No reason, no conscience, no understanding in even the most rudimentary sense. Life or death. Good or evil, right or wrong. I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, motionless face. And
the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes.
There you go. I spent 8 years trying to reach him and another 7 trying to keep him locked up because I realized what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply
evil.
There we go. Welcome home, everybody. If I had $1 for every time I drove around this town, smoking a joint, listening to Blue Oyster Cult, I could buy you all a thorn tattoo. So this is who I am, and this is who you are. We love this town, and we love this holiday, and we sure as hell love this movie. Woo! It's the perfect embodiment of everything that represents the holiday. There's something about the way evil is personified in this film that is completely timeless. Sadly, the synopsis of this movie reads like a CNN headline these days, but there's an underlying mythology, even in the simplicity of the story, that keeps us coming back for more every year. And we all showed up today for it. I'm very honored to introduce this cast today, and I want to hear you guys tear the roof off this place as we bring them up, okay? She totally impressed us with her famous squealing. The beautiful Pizzle. And how about the gorgeous, sharp-witted sheriff's daughter, Nancy Loomis. Thank you for being here, Nancy.
Thanks, guys.
Due to the... I'm sorry if there's children present. fact, my child is present. Earmuffs. Due to the magic of editing, not only did he make love to Linda in about a minute and a half, but he stuck around in the kitchen for a while. That's my only dad joke. Ladies and gentlemen, John Michael Graham. Here's a guy that made children in clown costumes horrifying until the end of time. Ladies and gentlemen, Will Sandin. Now, her brave performance reminded us all that nudity in horror films will be the first thing that's punished. And her headstone was apparently light enough to carry across town and up some stairs. The gorgeous Sandy Johnson. Are we missing someone? I think we're going to need one more chair. Now, this man needs no introduction. The OG Boogeyman. And there's only one of them. From the band The Coupe de Villes, ladies and gentlemen, Nick Castle. Well, I believe that's everyone that's joining us today. So let's, before we get into this actually, I just want to do one thing. There's a guy that's tied this community together for years. Some of you were stuck on a bus with him yesterday. Today happens to be his birthday. We're going to sing happy birthday to the one and only King of Horror, Sean Clark. Ready? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Sean. Happy birthday to you. He's 95 years old today. Let's hope he makes it to the 50th. Go get a nap. Everything's gonna be fine. So I'm gonna shut up. I want to go down the line, and I want to hear from every one of you. Nick, we'll start with you. How you got involved in the first movie, and a little bit of your experience.
All right. I was a classmate of John Carpenter's in 1967. 68, that makes me 812? It was
good man.
at the University of Southern California Film School, so we were film department mates, made movies together. I was the beach ball monster in Dark Star, if anybody ever saw that. You should, by the way, John Carpenter fans should go back and take a look at that if you haven't seen it already. It's pretty hilarious. And then when John was doing this movie, you know, he kind of got off. Everyone wanted to be a writer-director. He managed to figure it out first. And when he was shooting this down in near Laurel Canyon, some of you probably went by those houses yesterday, as a matter of fact. I lived pretty close to there and went down to the set before he started filming and said, I'm going to hang out. Because, you know, when I become a director, then I'll have this tucked in my experience belt. And he said, well, yeah, okay. Well, why don't you be this guy then? Here's this mask, put it on, and you'll walk around, kill people, and you'll be here the whole time. And I went, sounds good. 45 years later.
Well, as a young actress, of course, we go up for auditions, and I had already been in Carrie, and I think, plug it up. And John obviously had seen it, and so he asked me to come in and audition. And usually you read with a casting person, but I read with John. And afterwards, when I finished the scene that I read with him, he said, do you want to do this part? And I went, absolutely. I should have said totally. But I did say, why did you pick me? And he said, because you're the only one that read the word totally right. And I said, well, how else would you say it? And he said, well, that's why you got the part. And then he asked me to wait and to help him select of the three guys, someone to play my boyfriend. And I fell in love with John Michael Graham, and I said, he's my Bob.
Well, I was in the movie that John made in between Dark Star and Halloween, and that was Assault on Precinct 13. And so John, in his in the way that John is so incredibly sort of efficient, let's not waste anybody's time, you know, giving you the part immediately. He gave me the part immediately. It's like, okay, on to the next thing I have to check off my list. And I was really thrilled with that. I thought that was great. And the only thing that I regret about the whole thing is that I died in Assault on Precinct 13, and I guess John was impressed with that. So I also died in this movie in Halloween.
Well, I was not given the part instantly. I was a young actor also, and went back for audition after audition, and luckily PJ finally came in, and that's why I'm here. So thank you, and my girlfriend PJ, who's the best. You all know that she's the best.
I was 7 years old. I did a couple commercials and some print. Then I auditioned for the role of Tommy Doyle. Got a call back, read one of the lines. Then they asked me to do a scary face. Next day, they said, you got the job. And that was pretty much it. I showed up on a Friday, filmed that scene. It was there all day. Once it got to nighttime, we shot the scene and took about 5 or 10 takes. And then that was it. 6 months later, saw the movie, and 45 years later.
Hi there. It's nice to see everybody here. All right, well, I was a model. That's where I started out. And I was a Playboy model. And I was with the Playboy agency, which is how John Carpenter reached out to me. So I came out and I interviewed in one of the houses, I wish I could remember which one, but it was one of the houses that they were filming Halloween in at the same time. And they had me scream and read some lines, and a couple days later, they said I had been cast as Judith Myers, and I am very happy that that happened.
So, Sandy, since you're there, what was your impression of the film the first time you saw it?
Me?
What was your impression of the film the first time?
Well, the interesting thing was, unlike everybody else there, I didn't have the full script. So I didn't know the full script. I didn't know that my brother here was going to grow up to be a big masked man and kill everybody. So when I got to our little premiere and saw the film, it scared the hell out of me. So yeah, it was very exciting to see it. It was very scary, and to me it was a total surprise because I had not seen the script. I'd never seen the mask or any of that. So yeah, it was an interesting evening.
Now, Will, can you still do the face?
The face from you mean from that scene?
The face.
Yeah, I guess. He just said, make a blank look, don't look at the camera, and...
There it is. Unforgettable. John, did you have an impression of the film the first time you saw it?
Yeah, I think I've said this a few times, but I thought it was going to be a terrible movie. Because when I was on the set, we filmed the murder scene, and I don't know, I guess I was expecting it to be a big Hollywood film. I don't know why I would think that, but I did. And so, me standing on a box and going like that just felt like, okay. And I've told everybody this, holding the knife under my arm. It's not even attached into anything in my chest, I'm holding it under my arm, praying that I'm not gonna let the knife drop during a take so that I'd screw it up. So, I just thought, well, this is probably gonna be a bad film and it'll play in drive-ins or something, which happened then. And it would go away. And so this was a shock when I saw the film and thought, this is a decent film. This is a good film. As we've said, I think all of us a billion times, the music in the film makes all the difference in the world. Amen. And at the time, the music was a little bit different, something that most people weren't used to. So the whole thing added a great thing to the film. So it was a great experience and quite a shock to me. Still quite a shock to me that this film is a great film. Yeah.
I'd love to know what your impression was of the first viewing of the movie.
Well, I'm sort of, had a similar experience to you, John, because I remember at the wrap party, we were all joking around. I don't know if you guys remember this. We were all joking around saying, you know what, we're gonna be here and it's gonna be Halloween 20. And we were joking about it, right? Wouldn't it be, because I guess we were really just so glad that the film was finished at that point. And so we were just joking about it and laughing about it. And then when I saw the rough cut, I was really worried. I thought, this movie's kind of flat. I didn't know that much about filmmaking, And then I went to the premiere, and I was terrified. I was horrified, and at the same time, I was so thrilled that it was so scary and really good, and it was because of the soundtrack. I felt like the merging of the picture and the sound was just astonishing. So it was a lesson for me as a neophyte in the movie business. But I still am not very good at reading a script on the page and imagining the whole thing. So I still have trouble with that, whether it's a play or a movie. So, but anyway, that was my experience.
From the script, I don't think you could tell, really, but at that point in my career, I was most interested in hoping that I would do a good job as an actress and wanted to bring something special to the role, so I put in a few more totalies. But when we did see the first cast and crew screening, I just remember being completely tickled. First of all, at the opening credits with the pumpkin, I thought that was really amazing. And then hearing the music, it just was spine tingling. And I just thought, wow, this is really something. And it made me happy because I really liked John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, and I thought they were such a good team. And I thought, wow, they really put together this very magical movie. But no way did I ever think, wow, this was gonna last 45 years. So, but I'm glad it did, and I'm glad you all still appreciate it and find the magic in it that we felt when we were making it. And obviously, it was real.
I don't remember the first time I saw it. Where was the cast and crew screening?
Was that the director's?
Huh.
Yeah.
It didn't make much of an impression on me, honestly. I can't remember seeing it. The first time I remember reacting to it, I went the first week it came out, and I went to a screening of the movies in Hollywood just to see how it was playing, and people were, getting scared, and so I called John up and said, "Hey, John, the movie's working." Well, that was what I remember doing, and at the time I kept thinking, this is clever Halloween, a movie about called Halloween, on Halloween, a murder on Halloween, all that stuff I thought was clever, babysitters. So I was, you're a friend of the creators, both John, Deborah, and Tommy Lee Wallace, we haven't mentioned yet, who found and created The Mask, and was the production designer and co-editor. All these people are close friends of mine, and so you're just hoping against hope that it'll, take them another step towards a career, a real career. And look what happened. That was great.
What did you think of your performance the first time you saw it? Did you think, oh, that's me, or did you really get into that was the shape?
I thought it was either me or Marlon Brando. I can't remember what I thought. No, I don't remember exactly. I've seen, it's funny, I've seen it since, obviously. Every once in a while I go, let's see. But, I just remember every time I jumped out of the shadows, so nothing was ever scary for me. And I always felt like it was, who made those scares wasn't Nick Castle, it was really the characterization of that Tommy and everyone came up with, and John, knowing when to pop out of the shadows at the right time. So it's hard to, separate that from my performance.
Does anyone recall anything funny or strange happening on the set while you guys were filming? Was there? I mean, we've all heard the stories about how the leaves were reused, and Tommy had a big task to make it look like fall, but it was clearly springtime in Pasadena. But does anyone remember any interesting stories about the day they were on set? Or?
I just remember John telling us to be a little less realistic with our Linda and Bob scene in the bedroom.
That's funny.
So let that sit for a second, but I think the way the camera was angled or something, it just, and I was trying to make it look as real as possible. And I think he was kind of like, you might want to sort of tone some of that down. So
That's why I chose John.
That was a thing.
Will, when did you first realize the impact that this movie had on its audience?
I don't know. I think, it helped the name of the movie, Halloween. So once it was released out of theaters and on cable, which ended up being a couple years later, now it's, a month later. But once I got on cable, and then just people that I grew up with, they really loved it. They liked it. They always talked about it. And what made it, I thought that it was going to be big, was that the adults loved it. Like the parents would ask me about it probably more than my friends did. And just every Halloween it played, and people would talk about it, and people would watch it. No matter how many times they saw it, they would see it every October. And then once, once Halloween 2 came out in 1981, I knew it was huge, because automatically, when a sequel comes out, you know it's big. And then Halloween 3 came out, different storyline, but it was still Halloween 3. And then just all through the 80s, just, you know, from junior high, high school, friends, and I didn't really even mention that I was in it, but they all knew. And they would say, hey, I watched Halloween last night, I saw you. And then I think when Halloween 4 came out, I mean, I think it just exploded into a really, I mean, it was already a big franchise, but I think once Halloween 4 came out in 1988, I think it just exploded, and then it just went from there. It just kept getting bigger and bigger to this day, which is 45th anniversary, and it's still going strong.
Did you? Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Did you ever put the costume on again?
No, I've never. I was never a clown for Halloween as a kid. That was the only time, and yeah. So.
Do you remember what you were for Halloween around that time? Do you remember what your actual costume was around that time? Like, what were you into? Was it Star Wars? What was it?
Oh, when as a kid, and this was in the 70s, I was into, well, because they had those plastic costumes, so I was basically either those old school ones, either Frankenstein, Dracula, Creature of the Black Lagoon, like those kind of monsters I was really into. So when I saw it, and I loved all those kind of horror movies as a kid growing up, but I didn't think they were that, even as a kid, I didn't think they were scary, I just thought they were very cool. Halloween was like the first one where I was really scared watching it. I mean, it really did jump at me. That was like the first one that did that.
It seems, I think it's maybe one of the first movies, you guys can chime in on this too, that made costumes scary. Like, it was the first time I remember seeing in a film a child in a costume, and the visual of it was unnerving. And I would have imagined at that age you probably would have been recognized a lot too, especially once the movie hit.
Like I said, I don't recall really telling all my friends or anybody that, hey, I was in Halloween, or I just filmed Halloween, but for some, they did know. Maybe I did, and I just don't remember that, but everybody from grade school and Little League Baseball, they all knew, and but like I said before, they just would talk about it or ask me about it every October when it came out, and that really did help for the growth of the movie, that you had a movie that would come out automatically every Halloween, every October.
Yeah. Sandy, question for you. When did you first realize the impact of this movie on the culture?
A lot of fans, whenever I tell them this, they say they don't believe it, but I went from California. I got married, moved to Oregon, and then ended up back in Texas, my home state, and I was kind of devastated. I'd lost both my parents, so I kind of put acting away. It was just a really bad time for me. And so I became a teacher, special needs teacher, spent a really long time doing that. But what was funny, even though I was a science and computer teacher for special needs kids, I didn't ever Google myself. So I didn't know that Halloween was a big movie, or that they had made a bunch of them. I was so wrapped up with my kids, my school kids, that's all I did for all those years. And it wasn't until 5 years ago and 3 months that my current agent, Rick and Reek, actually interrupted my Words with Friends with my best friend, and he said, "Are you the Sandy Johnson from Halloween?" And wow, that's a random question for the middle of the night. Yes, and who are you? And it turned out, like I said, he's now my current agent. He started to tell me about horror conventions and signings, which was all like a foreign language to me. I had no idea. And he said, well, you probably should Google it yourself because people all around the world know who you are and we're looking for you. And so it was a total shock to me. I didn't know anybody was looking for me. I was just a school teacher doing my job. So my awakening was 5 years and 3 months ago. And boy, was that an awakening. And all I can say is, wow, the horror family is awesome. And I am so happy that the franchise did what it did all those years when I was teaching, because it's truly amazing.
Correct me if I'm yes, please. You are technically Dr. Judith Myers, correct? You got your doctorate in.
I did. I'm a doctor.
Way back. Thank you, Judith. Oh, you were, the 40th was your first?
Yes, the 40th was my very first convention, and that was a choice of my agent. There were a couple before that, but he really wanted me to come to this one first, so we held off announcing it, and so this was my first convention 5 years ago. Yes.
I sat next to her, and she and her husband had the widest eyes. Kept looking out at everybody, and then she'd turn to me and be like, well, what is this? It was so cute.
Show of hands, who was here for the 40th? It was awesome, wasn't it? Nancy, how do you, well, here's a better way to ask this question. Why do you think the movie has stayed so relevant for all of these years?
Well, I really think it has a lot to do with the internet, frankly, and the rise of the internet and the way that fans through the internet could connect with each other, and at the same time the emergence of all of these conventions where people have a chance to meet face to face, and the continuation of the franchise. It's like no matter what else is going on in the world, you can pretty much guarantee that every few years there's going to be another Halloween movie. And so it's a combination of all those things. You could dive into the psychological, mythological, sociological aspects of the characters of Michael Myers. I'm sure, I know people have written dissertations about that. But I really think that it's the combination of all those things that have produced the robustness of this franchise, shall we say? Yeah.
Well put. PJ, what do you think it is about the movie or the story, the characters that have perpetuated this to our 45th?
Well, I think our movie is number one and remains so no matter how many sequels there are, and that in itself. Every say you can make 100. Number one is going to be number one. But along with what Nancy said, everything that she said, but also that the holiday, Halloween, I think has grown exponentially in the last 20 years, which is amazing. Forget Christmas, it's Halloween. That's everyone's favorite holiday. And it's so much fun. It's scary, yes, but there's no blood in ours. There's no, it's a psychological, scary movie. There might be a knife, but you really don't see it used too much, except for Bob. And a few other threatening poses. But I think, really, I think the holiday has just become crazy. People are in love with the holiday, and they have the perfect movie to go along with it, no matter what language you speak.
It's true.
Nick, do you have anything to add to that? Do you have any theory as to what has perpetuated this fandom to this level?
Anything besides what all these good people said? Let me see. The specifics of the movie, I think, are clear. The Halloween angle, the fact that when it came out was a certain period of time that was unique to this world of horror. The growth of horror over the years and the comfortable nature of, in a strange way, of the family that it makes and the fun that people have. And then in general, I think, and this goes through a number of these franchises, is nostalgia. There's a nostalgic pining and longing for the day you first saw something. The one time you went with your dad and went to the movies. And it's amazing how many people come up to me and say, thank you for the first time. Yeah, I remember this movie because it was the first time I got scared, you know? So a combination of all those things, plus this, you know, the business of nostalgia, which could have its downside as well. But, you know, for us, and I include us too, I mean, we are just lucky to have this as a fun remedy to some of the craziness of the world. So it's all those things.
Just to add to that, then there's the fact that it was Panavision. I want to give a lot of credit to Panavision.
The 70s, the late 70s, people sort of have nostalgia for that as well, and they pine for those days, I think, and the look of it, and the simplicity of it, too. And in terms of the first time, well, yeah, see anything you like? I've got a lot of that.
John, do you have anything to add to why the longevity has persevered, and why we're all here, and why we're going to be here at the 50th?
Well, I mean, it's been said before, but I mean, I think the brilliance of John's idea of setting it at Halloween, and it's been said, every year it's going to come around and around and around and around. And what else would you watch on Halloween other than a film called Halloween? You know, I mean, it was a great idea and a great marketing plan. So, I mean, in fact, when I did think it was going to be a bad film, I remember thinking, well, at least it'll come out again on Halloween. So, I mean, I always thought that's a clever idea, calling something Halloween, you know. So that's one of the reasons, I think. And it just happens to work. It's an interesting, fun film, and yeah.
So you thought, well, it'll at least play twice.
At least, right. And then, you know, I'll be on TV, just on cheap channels that have, you know, yeah. So help me. It's a good idea.
I know people have questions. Are you ready? Are you ready? Sir, let's start with you.
Now, if you had a time machine, you could go back in time 1 week before you made the movie, would you say to your younger self anything? Do anything differently, or would you?
This question was, if you had a time machine and you could go back, would you have done anything differently? Nick, you want to take a start?
Nope.
You want to say that louder?
I think everything went perfectly, but it's a good question.
Agreed.
I think I would have just convinced myself that it was okay to relax and have a good time and not worry about it so much, you know, because at that time I was so concerned about doing a good job and making a good impression. So I think that's all I would have done.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. I was, you know, very young and very nervous about, you know, my first real role like that. So I was very, terrified, and I always say I was hiding in the trailer with the kids. You weren't there that time. Well, but, you know, because it was like, they'd be like, okay, you can go to the trailer now and we'll call you for your scene. So I go, oh, okay. And I'd go and I'd sit and I'd worry about my next scene. So I would just say, oh gosh, calm down. Go out on the set. I'm sure everybody would have been very friendly and welcoming because these are wonderful people. So I would have done that. I would just sit and relax and be yourself and have a good time. But it came out okay anyway, so.
Yeah.
Will, do you have something to add to that?
Other things, yeah, I would definitely change. But as far as that movie goes, no, I don't think I would change anything regarding that scene or anything like that.
We're not going to improve on that stair. That stair is locked in forever. It's perfect. Sandy, what about you?
I think I might have asked, could we let my boyfriend be upstairs a little bit longer? It doesn't say too much for either of us.
Young man in the black shirt.
What was it like working with Jamie Lee Curtis?
A blast. We had a lot of fun together, all of us. We spent a lot of time in the trailer, and she was very engaging and a lot of fun.
Yeah, she was, the three of us bonded instantly like we actually had gone to high school together, and we were just giggling all the time. And I just remember Jamie as having a very upbeat and positive attitude, even though she was really sort of terrified that she was doing a bad job and would get fired. I remember she was very nervous about that. But as a, one-to-one, girlfriend to girlfriend, she just was delightful, I remember thinking. She was much younger than I was, but I just thought she was just really a cool chick.
Anyone else has a, no? Who's up? Sir in the white shirt.
What was it like, what was your first reaction to when you heard the soundtrack or any of the music for the first time? Like, was it terrifying? Was it like, oh, that added to the movie?
The soundtrack?
Yeah, what was it like when you first heard it for the first time, any of you?
It really scared me. It was powerful. I realized how powerful it was because I had seen the rough cut without any sound at all. And it was like night and day when the soundtrack was merged with the picture. It was pretty amazing. But the soundtrack itself, I'm so thrilled that so many of you have collected that album and appreciate the music for itself. It's pretty great.
And it was shocking because I didn't really know John was a musician, or I guess at the rap party you guys played, you had a band, the Coupe de Villes, and they played. I was like, oh, that's cute. They played instruments too. Everyone in the 70s had a band, it seemed, so it wasn't anything out of the ordinary. But then when we went to the cast and crew screening and the little piano started playing, I was like, wow. And then it said music by John Carpenter. I'm like, really? Oh, that guy does everything. And then realizing, wow, and the few times that I did see it on TV at home, and I just turned the sound down just for fun, I go, not as effective, you need that music. So really brilliant, it really amazed me.
Next question, sir in the orange shirt.
Yeah, what is something that you took from that movie? What, like a learning experience, something that you took from Halloween and used it maybe like towards your personal life or your career?
Was there something they took from Halloween as a learning experience that affected them moving forward?
I'll do it.
Sure.
Well, that's why I was there. So it really, as I mentioned before, I went to film school with John. John had already done a couple pictures. I was on the set of A Dark Star, not on Assault. And when I got this opportunity, and I thought, what if I hung around here? You have all these misgivings I knew I was going to have all these misgivings about being on a set and being the director for the first time, and I thought this would dispel some of the, the craziness. And it was exactly that. You get to know a crew, you get to know the whole gang, you get to be in the background. All the fear that would build up before it. Of course, you're going to have anxiety when I did my first picture as a director, but it did help in that regard. And also, John's very good. So I learned his demeanor on the set, which I thought was smart, and not just smart, but because he's a nice guy. He was good to the crew and respectful to the crew and the actors. That was important because you hear all these monsters, horror stories. That's a good term for it, about prima donna directors and go off and yell at people and stuff like that. So that was good too to know that. And then the simplicity and kind of classic nature of the way he would address the scenes in terms of the way where the camera was placed, the movement of the camera, things like that. It was a good school. Even though I went to school with him, we learned these things together. John kind of was, a step ahead. So it was always like a good person to lean on and to find out some stuff.
Really great question. Anybody else have anything for that?
One thing that I learned has been a big thing in my life is that I learned that you never know where you're going to end up. You never know what's going to lead you here. I mean, like we've all said, none of us would have expected that we would be here in this situation with all these people who love this film and who this means so much to. And I just think, you don't know how you touch people. Everything you do, you end up touching people in a way. And how we've managed to touch people, all of you, by being in this film where we each had our own little ideas of what we were doing. And we've come together and made this. So I think you just never know in life what's gonna happen, what's gonna take you to where you need to go. And that's changed my life, doing this and seeing how this happens. And just realizing you gotta watch what you're doing, do your best, and this happens.
New book, Trust the Journey.
You can buy it on Amazon.
Well, that is a great lesson because sometimes all you have to do is just show up, right? And then the universe kind of takes control. So it's a really fantastic question. Gentleman in front.
First off, thank all of you guys for being here. Really appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. Do any of you guys have any sort of fond memories or stories about being on set with Donald Pleasence? I know it kind of was an interesting dynamic that he was a little bit older, a little bit further in his career, and a lot of you guys are kind of, still newbies and everything. I'm a little nervous. So what was that like being on set with him?
I wasn't.
I didn't have that many scenes with him, but I was completely awestruck by Donald Pleasence because he, in my opinion, he was like a major star. I watched his movies since I was a kid, and I thought he had the craziest eyes I'd ever seen. So that other question about it, if you could have done something different before Halloween started, I think I would have had it written into my contract that I would have had a scene with Donald Pleasence.
Yeah, I did when they added footage for the TV, when they put it on TV, they had to fill a 2-hour slot. So I did that one scene in the hospital where I was staring out the window. I was 12 years old, and that's where I met Donald Pleasence. And he was very nice, very friendly. And we didn't have a big conversation or anything like that, but I was 12 years old, but he was very nice to me.
Really great question.
Yeah, I just remember having lunch, the three with the girls, and sandwiches, and after picking up the leaves, and he just was very quiet, and I remember saying, to John, does he not want to talk to us? And he said, well, he likes to stay in character, so even through lunch, a lot of actors like to not break, their feeling of who they're playing, so maybe you should just, try to avoid him. And so I just remember thinking, oh, well, okay, that's interesting, but gosh, I don't know, he should relax a little and try to talk to us. We're all cute girls.
Wait, did you all have to help rake the leaves?
Yes, we all picked up the leaves after they threw them around.
Team players, everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, do we know what's going on with Charles?
Yeah, he had surgery yesterday. He's fine. He's still in the hospital. He had his pacemaker replaced, I think. So he's doing fine. Yeah.
Well, send all the love to Charles and family.
I have kind of a two-part question. Number one, how fun was it to film the night scenes? That's my first question. And number two, when you return to Pasadena, LA or where some of the other shots were filmed, what are some of the feelings that come over you? Obviously you have memories of being on set, but I can imagine you spent some time off the set and maybe there were things that you did or you hung out. How does it feel to return here after all of these years and sort of have these memories and everything sort of flood? Like, what does that kind of feel like?
Let me just repeat for the back of the room. So he's asking, is there any feelings that come back when they return to Pasadena and the LA area, and what was it like to film at night? If anyone would like to take that.
I'll do the night one because I hated it. and especially for one scene when, and you get to, if you stop your video thing or whatever they have now, DVD, at a certain point you can see me jumping onto the car at the beginning of the movie. He escapes the insane asylum and they pull up in a car and they get scared away. He jumps in the car and he smashes his hand into the window, all that kind of stuff. That was done at about 4 in the morning on a 45-degree day in the spring, late winter, whatever we were. And it was really cold, and all I was in is a hospital gown, you know how thin those are, and underpants. And John said, okay, you're going to do this, you're going to jump on the car, and then you're going to do that. Okay, that's not so bad. So, but then, and this, I swear I remember it this way, he said, right before we started the shot, he said, okay, start the rain. I said, what does that mean? And they had these hoses, they didn't even have one of those great machines. They had these hoses, giant, fireman hoses, going like this up into the thing, and I'm going, see, they come down, he goes, okay, and action. And then it comes down on me like icicles up the back of my back. And then I had to go through the whole scene just almost screaming with pain. And so I do it and I go like this, what the? They put a furniture blanket, they call it, on the set there. It's like a blanket. And I said, I'm grumbling, and then John turns and goes, okay, let's do take 2. So that was my least favorite time on the set, and that's my memory of nighttime.
You must have nostalgia, you live here.
I don't have a lot of nostalgia. I have to be honest with you because I live in LA. And I have nostalgia about the old neighborhoods that I used to live in. Whenever I'm back in those neighborhoods and I want to go see, okay, how's it changed, the place I used to live? But, or go to the coffee shop where I used to hang out. But I don't really have a lot of nostalgia for the locations where we shot. Sorry to disappoint you.
I think we've all got enough for all of you. Am I right? Anybody else have any memories of night shoots?
No, but you know, it is amazing that you guys love going to the hedge and sitting with the pumpkin on the stoop, and you guys have nostalgia, and that's amazing. So, but you know, we were making a little movie, but for you who have seen it and love it and embraced it as part of your lives, it's wonderful that you do, and you keep those locations alive. So, and Sean Clark too. So.
Lori's house is up for sale.
Really?
Yeah, that's where she sits with the pumpkin. So, anybody have $1.5 million out there?
That's exciting. I can tell you, as somebody who's personally lived in Pasadena for 10 years, the magic is still there for all of us. You guys who took the tour with Sean yesterday, like, it's all the feels, right? Like, you see the houses, and you see the streets, and you see the sidewalks, and you see the concrete thing, and it's all there. And it's all that we love it. So we've got enough nostalgia for all of you guys. Sandy, you had something to add.
You were talking about night scenes. I just wanted to say that when I shot the scene upstairs, it was different because it was a real house and it was a really old house. So it wasn't like being on a movie set. It was actually pretty scary. And like when they came upstairs, the stairs really did creak. And it was really dark, and it had, you know, dark corners and stuff. So I just remember being up there and just thinking, boy, they're not going to have to add a lot to this scene to make this a scary place. So when they were coming up the stairs and everything, I could definitely hear them creeping up the stairs and stuff. So yeah, I remember just thinking this is just a really scary place, not like a set where, you know, you see everybody and all of that. It was nobody else.
Yeah, it was interesting being in somebody's bed, PJ, don't you think? I mean, we were in real people's bedrooms, you know, and in their bed. So that's just, it's odd.
I wish they would have filmed when the parents came home and said, "What happened here?"
I think we've got time for one more question. We're actually running over, so gentlemen.
My question is for Will. I was wondering if early on, if there was any discussion of you maybe playing Tommy Doyle instead and Brian Andrews maybe playing young Michael?
Well, I auditioned for the role of Tommy Doyle, as I'm sure a bunch of kids did. But as far as did he audition for a young Michael also? That I'm not sure. I just I read for that role. I read for the callback also, and he also told me to, like I said before, you know, make a scary face. And when the next day, when they said I had the job, I didn't know which role it was. But until I went to the set on that Friday and filmed the scene, I said, okay, I know which role I got. And also later on, I heard that Brian Andrews was cast as that, because I did know him back then and his mom.
Good question. Okay, one more question. One more. Young lady.
You guys!
Thank you so much. John, you said something about how you affect people, and I think what's really apparent today is how much everyone appreciates. I know you guys just showed up for work to do your part, but here we are all these years later celebrating what you left on the screen for us, and you all brought your A game to your job that day, and it counted. It counts, and it still counts today. It's going to count 5 years from now. It's going to count 100 years from now. So thank you all for bringing your passion and your